In Matthew chapter 12, Jesus says, "Therefore I tell you, people will be forgiven for every sin and blasphemy, but blasphemy against the Spirit will not be forgiven. Whoever speaks a word against the Son of Man will be forgiven, but whoever speaks against the Holy Spirit will not be forgiven, either in this age or in the age to come." The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines blasphemy as the act of insulting or showing contempt or lack of reverence for God. Now, I grew up believing that you could pray silently. Just close your eyes and talk to yourself inside your own head, because God's a telepath and he knows everything, and you don't need to speak out loud to talk to God. Eventually, it occurred to me that if God was constantly monitoring my thoughts, all I had to do to blaspheme the Holy Spirit was to think bad thoughts about the Spirit. Like, all I had to do to become unforgivable and eternally damned was to have the phrase, "Screw you, Holy Spirit," cross my mind, and God would hear it, and that'd be it for me. My soul is toast. Game over. Have you ever tried not to think about a particular sentence?
I say to you, don't think about elephants. What are you thinking about?
Elephants.
So I came up with a defense mechanism for those moments when this threat would cross my mind. Whenever I felt that I was in danger of blaspheming the Holy Spirit, I would silently recite something else in my head to drown out those dangerous thoughts. Like, "I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to think about it." I would sometimes lie awake at night, unable to sleep, rapidly chanting these mantras for hours at a time, fearful that if I stopped, I might accidentally commit the unforgivable sin, and that God would cast me into hell and torture me for all of eternity. Driven by this fear, I trained the voice in my head to constantly shout at me and drown out things that I did not want to think about. Thinking about unforgivable sin? Silently scream at yourself about something else. You see a contradiction in the Bible that makes you question your faith? That's fine, just silently scream at yourself. Trying to hold a conversation with somebody and be a functional, healthy member of society? Too bad, you've trained your internal monologue to scream repetitive, nonsensical phrases at full volume to the point that it can drown out everything else. Now, the path to hell that is arguably even more certain than blasphemy is disbelief. If you're a Christian, have you ever had doubts? Like, have you ever been less than 100% convinced of the truth of the gospel message, even for a few seconds? Tell me, what would have happened if you had died during that brief moment of disbelief? I'm sure some of you are going to be like, "Well, golly, God's not going to damn you for having a moment of doubt." Try telling that to a child who's had his head filled up with a lot of wild ideas about a vindictive deity that can read his every thought. I don't believe anymore. Not in God or in hell. I still have that fear, though. Not because I think hell is real or because I think I'm in any danger of going there. It's just a phobia that has taken root so deeply in my brain that I can't get past it. Just a few weeks ago, I was talking with a Christian about the unfortunate debacle that is taking place in the Gaza Strip. Can I just make a quick remark on how grotesque I find the attitude that a lot of Christians have about affairs in the Middle East? Like, according to prophecy, they need things to ramp up to apocalyptic levels of violence so that Jesus can come back and save the day, and they get so excited whenever things go to shit in Palestine. They regurgitate platitudes about how we should pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and how the whole affair is, oh, so sad, but behind the crocodile tears and obligatory denouncement of what's going on, they're like children on Christmas morning.
Yes, very sad. Anyway, it got me thinking.
Back to what I was saying, a few weeks ago, I was talking with a Christian, and he started on about how, "Oh, you just wait, they're about to sign the 7-year treaty with Israel." And I had a full-on anxiety attack. My heart started pounding. I felt dizzy and sick to my stomach. I was like, the treaty. Then comes the tribulation, famine and plagues, hairy locusts, falling stars, the moon turning into blood, the lake of fire. I know I was being silly. At that very moment, I knew I was being silly. But I simply could not help myself. The conditioning and the trauma was just too deep. It's just such a twisted, damaging thing to teach a child. To teach them that they are worthless, so broken and disgusting that they deserve to be tortured for all of eternity, but that God is willing to give them a free pass anyway. But be careful what you think, because if you say naughty things about his spirit or believe the wrong things, then you'll get what you deserve. Oh, and this sadistic, telepathic psychopath loves you more than any mortal ever could, because, evidently, love is conditional, and it uses fear to make sure that it is reciprocated. It's fucked up. It fucked me up. I'm still fucked up. But it's getting easier. In closing, I would like to leave any apostates out there who might be struggling with this with some of the best advice I've ever been given on how to deal with the fear of hell. Think back to when you were a Christian. I say Christian here because that's what I was and that's how this was presented to me. If you came out of a different religion, feel free to swap things out or shuffle them around to make this argument more relatable. Anywho, think back to when you were a Christian. Back then, I assume you had no fear of the Islamic hell or the Hindu hell. Why would you? You didn't believe in them, so you had no reason to fear them. Right now, you have just as much reason to fear the Christian hell as you did to fear the Islamic or Hindu hells. Think it through. Trace the fear back to its source. Examine and understand why you feel the way that you feel. It gets better. The fear passes in time. I'm not there yet, but I'm on my way. Famine and plagues, hairy locusts, falling stars, the